Hey, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of Hanging Out with Nolan Hong. And joining me this week on the podcast, even though you can't see her because she's hiding from the camera and the microphone, but it's everybody's favorite co host and super producer extraordinaire. It's my wife, Jamie. Yay! Welcome, Jamie. You can't hear it, but there's a loud, thunderous applause going on. I think you will regret having to edit and crop yourself because you're so off frame there.
God.
But this is a great start to the podcast, obviously. The energy is high and positive, and appropriately, Jamie is wearing her I'm grumpy Care Bear shirt right now, and I've got my sleepy Care Bear Emmett on my lap, and then we've got the hungry Care Bear Nacho over there on the side.
Hungry bear and sleepy bear.
I didn't actually watch Care Bears because my mom said that it was evil because they used magic from their bellies. You know, only God can provide those
She wasn't
things.
bothered by the talking bears?
No, but I know this was a show that you loved growing up, right? So the cartoons I was not allowed to watch was Care Bears and He-Man and She-Ra because they all called upon powers from another being other than God. So it was satanic, I guess.
Oh my God.
She may deny this at this point, but she would only deny it because she doesn't know what these cartoons are. And then she would watch them, and I bet she should go, "Oh yeah, of course."
It's evil.
Yeah. Why wouldn't I say not to watch that? So, anyways, that's not what today's episode is about. Just thought I'd share that little tidbit with you. But I always have fun having us together on the podcast, and it always leads to weird conversations. So we're starting it off right. But today's episode is we wanted to go back to when the last time we had Jamie on. We were talking about her grandfather and my grandmother, our Popos episode. And we had so much to talk about that we didn't have time to talk about my grandfather and her grandmother, who is like, really close to us. Like my grandfather was like a father figure to me.
I wasn't really close to my grandma.
Oh, okay. Well, we didn't go over the notes. But yeah, we had a lot to share about them. And so we decided, we'll table that episode for another day. And so today's the day. And partly we wanted to do this episode today because we also wanted to share that we're going to be doing a free DIY workshop on Zoom in a week from when this comes out. So we wanted to tell you guys a little bit about that. I'll explain it later, but it ties into, us sharing these stories of our grandparents. So I think it's apropos that we talk about that this week. So let's get into it, shall we? First of all, I guess maybe we can kind of tie in these two things, our DIY workshop, which I'll say briefly is for people to learn how to shoot their own, legacy videos. And I've said it before in the past, the legacy videos that we're producing is where you're capturing stories and memories from your loved ones, right? And usually like your kupuna, but not everyone can do it or hire us. So we're teaching them how to do it themselves. And you came up with your why as to why you wanted to do legacy videos and why you want people to capture their loved one stories, because you actually had an opportunity many years ago to do that with your grandma, right?
Both of them, Grandma and Popo.
Oh, I didn't know you interviewed your Popo as well.
They were sitting there together at the table.
Oh, I thought it was just your grandma. Oh, okay. So tell me a little bit about how that whole story went, because obviously I don't remember it very well.
I just need to say I hate this.
Hate what?
Looking at myself.
Don't look at yourself. Look
you
at the
didn't tell me
lens.
that this was going to be on video until I walked in the room.
But this podcast is now available not only in all streaming apps, but also on YouTube as well. So, and you
But when
produced
we
this, so
did,
you know this,
but
man,
when we did our other episode, it was just audio. So
because we
I
weren't
thought this
doing
would just
the
because we were in the
YouTubes.
car. No, we were doing.
Oh,
No, I'm
well.
very uncomfortable, and I don't want to have to edit this, but I can't contain my whining.
Going back to your experience of recording your own, the well, at the time it wasn't a legacy video, but it essentially was a legacy video of your grandparents, because
My
you're
mom wanted to.
right. So,
I had just gotten a camera. I think it was my first camera. It was a really, really long time ago.
so were you out of college yet?
Yes, I didn't have a camera before. So how did I record that other one? I bought my I'm having a conversation in my head with myself. I got my first camera after I graduated from college. It's $900.
Oh,
It was my
that's a pretty
biggest
significant,
purchase.
yeah. Because even if we were to spend 900 now,
Yeah,
that's a lot for us.
yeah. It was terrible.
But that was because you just graduated college, your degree in television,
Yes.
and was this an investment for yourself so that you could get jobs, or just because you like, I know all this knowledge of how to make videos, I got to use it?
No, it was because Trisha and I were gonna make that video, Sticks and Stones, and then we were going through the Olelo process, and then it
Mm-hmm.
was hard to borrow the equipment all the time. I think that's what yeah, that was what it was. So I bought my own camera.
Okay. So you had this camera. Did you use it yet when your mom approached you with this
Yeah,
request?
I
Oh.
was just using it for random stuff. It was this tiny little camera. It was
Mm-hmm.
really small, so I carry it in my purse, like when I went out to the club.
What? Really?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't clubbing. It was different. It was stuff you don't like. More like lounge kind of things. So
Oh.
it was like neat lighting and it's
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't
It
recall
wasn't
ever
like
seeing
at
anyone with a camera.
Oceans.
Yeah, the clubs that I went to, I never saw anyone with a camera. And so, when you got this camera, did you have any other equipment like lights or microphones or anything like that?
I I think I might have gotten a mic because I got a mic for that project we were working on.
Oh,
It
okay.
was also that mic. My first mic was junk, so it was from Shirakia. It wasn't
Oh, I
very
didn't
good
even know
quality.
Shirakia sold microphones.
Yeah, they had an
I know
electronics
they had
department.
TVs and stuff, super overpriced Sony TVs. I just knew, like, if you bought your electronics from Shurikia, like, you spending a lot of money.
There was this counter, like when you walked in from the back entrance, there was the Sanrio area, and then right past that, there was this little counter, and they had some like headphones and audio equipment.
Yeah.
So I got my first mic there, and it was bad. And then later on, my mom took me to get my second mic, and it was really good. And the guy was trying to shame me because at that time there weren't many girls doing video
Oh,
stuff, and he was like really talking down to me. And then
wow.
I stood up to him, and my mom was super impressed.
What store was it at Shurikia again?
No, 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 no,
Oh,
no.
okay.
It was this little store, and I went there because my friend was friends with the guy that worked there.
Wow.
And I can't remember what it was called. But then he was like, "Oh, you wouldn't know how to use this," and yeah,
Oh
I
my
was pretty
gosh.
offended.
He still got your money.
He did because that was the only place I knew where I could get it.
That's messed up, man.
Yeah.
Oh well. Anyways, so you got your equipment and stuff, and so your mom had asked you to do this project, which what was her reasoning? Like, what did she want?
She just wanted to record my grandma and Popo telling stories because they would always talk like Popo especially would just talk like they would sit around and he would drink beer. Like all the uncles and stuff because
Yeah.
they would play cards a lot, and then she wanted she wanted to record them telling their stories. And man, it was painful. It was so bad.
So how come?
Um, I was I was I was very new,
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't know how to tell her what to do before we started. So when we were going and she was sitting and she was sitting next to the camera, and then it was like we were trying to interview them.
Mm-hmm.
And as they were talking, she kept going, "Oh, uh-huh. Ah, ah, oh." Like, "Mom, oh my God." And and it was also very, it didn't go the way, like, as far as them telling stories, it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, um I think they felt uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
and she felt uncomfortable
Yeah.
asking them these questions.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of awkward. Like, I think she didn't know what to ask. They felt uncomfortable. And then we had her going, "Ah."
And so, but you still have that video,
Yeah.
and if anything, you at least get to see what they look like and their
Yeah.
voice. Yeah.
I honestly haven't watched it since I recorded it.
Wow, really? You just remember that she
Yeah.
gets
I
like,
remember,
oh.
and I was so annoyed that I could never watch it after that. But I think cuz I put it on a private YouTube
Yeah.
links and sent it to my cousins and my brothers, so I think other people have watched it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like it's for nothing.
Yeah. But this is a great example of why we wanted to do this workshop, because we felt
Yeah.
that there's going to be people just like you, or just like your younger self, that especially during the holidays when everybody's home and stuff like that,
Yeah.
that they're going to want to capture these stories, and you don't want them to suffer the same fate that you did. Because I mean, it's been what, how long has it been since you did? Probably like 20 something years, right?
More, I'm pretty sure I was 21. So however old I am now.
So over 20
Over
years
20.
ago, and you still, like, she still brings this story up like
Me?
often. Yeah. And so it still bothers you to this day. And yeah.
Oh.
And it's like, man, if we could go back in time and just give you some basic heads up,
Yeah.
basic tips, like,
Yeah, that's true.
right?
Yeah.
Because it's not like you need
Yeah.
to go back and tell your former self, like, oh, we got to send you through hours and months of training to get it
Yeah.
right. Like, yes, the kind of videos and interviews we do now is really high end and quality, but you, for what people are needing to do, which is just preserving these stories, like,
Yeah.
you don't need to have it like that. um and there's just real basic stuff that you wouldn't know, but once you hear it, it's like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
And so that's what this free virtual, workshop is that we're doing. So we're gonna go over things like equipment, which could be as simple as just using your phone, and then like best practices with that, like how to frame it, where to put, how to hold up the phone or the camera, how to get better sound. Because did you use the microphone for that?
I don't remember. I would have to look. I don't know if that was before I got the mic.
Yeah, because sound is like one of the most like distracting problems that
Yeah.
people have on self shot videos, and there are several little tricks that you can do to really upgrade the sound. Like, it won't sound like crystal clear like professional with super nice mics, but you can really get much better sound quality if you just do a few things. So we'll talk about that kind of things, lighting, but then also like how to do the interview so that you don't have things like Jamie's mom going, oh, and also having that weird. I know what you're talking about. Like when it's like when you're talking without cameras and knowing that's being recorded.
Yeah, it's super
Yeah,
different.
you can get all the stories you want, but when that camera's on and stuff, it's like, so where were you born? Honolulu. Oh, uh, it can get really weird like that. So we just want to give everyone, a chance to learn how to do this on their own. And it's the holiday season coming up, so that's why we want to do it like right now. so that you guys can be ready for when you have your get-togethers and people are flying in town, and so you have access to them. Plus, we're doing this before Black Friday, so if you do want to buy any kind of equipment, you can probably get some good Black Friday deals on Amazon and stuff. So we'll put the description or the link to the event in the descriptions and the show notes. But if you want to just jot it down, they can what?
poplegacyvideos.com/workshop.
Yeah.
I
So
think.
then it's free. So by clicking on it, it'll just take you to our Eventbrite, and you can get the Zoom link from there. And we'll do a Q&A as well. So since it's live, so you know, of course, people are gonna have questions. So it'll be really good, and I think it'll be really valuable for you, especially if you do want to try and do something like this.
That's the right link.
Phew, this is good. Whenever I do these recordings of the podcast myself, I always am second guessing what website I'm giving out. So I may or may not have given the wrong web addresses for things. But as far as this this desire to capture your grandparents' stories and going back to your grandmother,
Yeah.
um, it's kind of similar to me where I wish I had documentation of my grandfather because uh, I
Yeah.
just have so many things that I would want to hear from him, learn more about his history and his past. And all I have is like a little 2-page written interview that his school did with him. And his answers are pretty basic and short. They're interesting, but I wish I could have learned more about the backstories of those and things. Um, so we kind of have similar things where we have some
Yeah.
stories or information, but we wish we had more. But what do you remember about your grandmother? Because you always talk about how you think that she and I would get along so well and stuff. And, you know, I don't doubt that for a minute, but
Yeah.
I would love to know what you know about her and some of your memories about her.
I the first thing I think of with her is that she was rascal.
It's so funny to think of a grandmother,
Yeah.
and I'm just imagining this cute little
Yeah.
old lady, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, so rascal.
Yeah. And it's funny because I'm the opposite of rascal. Like, I only
Yes,
want to follow rules. And
yes,
anytime I step a
code of
little
honor.
outside of the rule, I get stressed.
Yeah.
And my grandma is like not that at all. Like, she, yeah, she's just always laughing at people. And yeah. So this is weird, but I remember her telling Dave, my ex-husband, when he was playing cards with them and he was doing bad, she's like, "Don't cry, Dave." So
Oh, she's so mean.
yeah, she's rascal, but she says it like laughing, like she's very jolly.
So what did your grandmother do for what was her before she, retired? What did she do for a living?
She was a maid. So I don't know what the order was. She grew up in town, I think. And then somehow she was just made for this lady named Betty, and we visited her in what is the city that has the bell? Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. I was like,
Yeah.
why Papu?
We went to go visit her once and it was so weird, like wow. Yeah, I don't know. It
So
was
your
just
grandmother used to be a maid for some, like she used to live in Philadelphia and was a
no,
maid.
no, no.
Oh,
That lady was here. She was like a white lady, so I guess she was
uh-huh.
rich and like here with servants, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, wow. And then she moved to Philadelphia later?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Where did she live? Do you know?
I don't that lady?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know how long she worked for her either. But so she was a maid over there and I don't know if that must have been before she met my popo. And then somehow she ended up working at the Haleiwa Hotel even though she was from Honolulu. But so I guess she must have moved out there and that was where she met Popo.
And at working at Haleiwa Hotel, like he
Yeah.
was working there too. What was
Yeah.
he doing?
I'm not sure. I would assume a gardener, but I really don't know.
Oh,
But she told the story. I think it might have been when I interviewed her when I was in elementary school.
oh, so you interviewed her twice then?
Yeah, we had to do this project. I think it's elementary school because I wrote my name on the cassette tape in cursive. So I think that must have been elementary school. But I think that's how I know most of the stories from her because she didn't like share stories when people are sitting around.
Uh-huh.
But she told me how she was like at the top of the stairs with her cleaning supplies, and she looked down and Popo was coming in the door at the bottom of the stairs of the
Mm-hmm.
hotel, and she knew the date that it happened. And yeah, it's cute.
Did she say that when she saw him, it was like love at first sight, or what kind of?
She didn't say it in that those words, but that was the feeling I got.
Yeah.
And then she started cackling because he had a girlfriend at the
Oh
time.
my gosh. Which is fine, but it's the cackling that makes
Yeah, it
it
was a
go.
laugh like,
Yeah.
yeah, he had a girlfriend.
It's so funny because when I look at adults or people like grandparents and I look up to them, I just think hold them in such high regard.
Yeah.
And then when you hear these stories of when they're young, you're like
Yeah.
shocked. But we look at our lives and it's like, yeah, I was that age and I did all kinds of stuff. And why would they be any different? I don't know why we can't just,
Yeah.
accept that everyone goes through this circle of life and you go through your maturations and stuff. But yeah, when we hear, oh, grandma or grandpa did this, like they used to smoke weed. Like, what? Yeah.
What?
They'd smoke grass with the jazz musicians in the yard. Like, what? It's crazy. So what else? Like, what else did she talk about?
The one that struck me as the weirdest is that she said that when she was little, she would tease her grandma because her grandma had bound feet, which is like, so when she told me that, didn't know what that meant. And
Mm-hmm.
then later on we read that book in school, and then I found out, I was like, oh,
What's
that's
that book?
nasty. Oh, that
You talk like I know what you're talking
I'm
about.
sorry. It's that the book about the Chinese people, the people in China. Like everybody has to read it
Really?
in like ninth grade.
I didn't.
Oh, what
The
is it
Last Emperor?
called?
Is it
No.
autobiographical?
Somebody help me. I don't
Nobody's gonna
remember what
help you
it's
right now.
called. I feel like everybody has to read this book.
If you're listening to this podcast, just know that this has already been recorded, so any of your answers will not be helpful right now.
I feel like the title is like China something. Maybe that's wrong. But
China
it's about
facts.
a a woman, and then like her husband has another wife, and
Is
ah
it like based on a
the
real
good
story?
good the good land. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Is this a fictional story or a
I don't know. I think
uh,
it's fictional. I'm not sure.
okay.
Anyway, when we read that book, that was when I really made the connection of bound feet, and then I was like, that's pretty weird.
So for those who don't know what bound feet are, back 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 in the days, it was considered like and I'm saying this and I'm already anticipating Jamie correcting me because I'm probably gonna say it wrong, but it was considered like you're you're like really rich and stuff or like
Yeah, high
high
class.
class if you have small feet and they make your feet small by binding it as a child, like wrapping them really tight so that when your feet grow the bones just mash
Ah!
together and just
Oh God.
you're just basically as an
Oh.
adult walking on stumps. And I think there's something to the effect of like because then they can't work the fields or something like
Yes.
that, right?
I was wondering
Oh,
what you were gonna
you
say.
know what I was gonna
I was
say,
waiting
and I knew it wasn't gonna be correct.
to
Is that
run.
yeah, that they couldn't run away.
I knew you were. I thought you were gonna say that, and I was gonna be so appalled.
Like, you're too classy to run away from home. No, but
That's what it was, because your family's so rich that you don't need your daughters to work the field.
yeah. And so, but it's such a painful
Yeah,
process,
yeah.
and
They're disfigured.
if you ever see pictures of it, it's just
Oh no,
nasty.
I would never want to see a picture of that.
My mom made me read a book about the
Maybe it
Chinese.
was that.
No, but it had picture like it
Oh
was like
no.
it was educational, like I don't know. I don't know why that book existed, but it had all kinds of like archival photos of these like, and none of these women with bound feet in these photos look happy. I remember that. Like
Oh.
they just look so, but I guess nobody back in those days smiled for pictures. It's all like these old black and white
I
photos and
think
stuff.
the old ones people aren't smiling because the exposure takes so long.
Yeah, but I just looked at it, looked like pain on their face.
Oh.
But yeah, so that's what bound feet were, and I guess Jamie's grandma,
My grandma's
great,
grandma.
yeah, had that.
So what is that? My grandma, great
Great,
great great
great,
grandma.
yeah.
Yeah. So I guess she was living here, and then my grandma would tease her because she couldn't chase her and spank her.
Oh my gosh,
She would make fun of her grandma and then run.
man,
Yeah.
your grandma is a savage.
But can't you see how she's Grant's grandma? Like that totally makes sense.
Your brother, yeah. I guess it goes in the family.
Yeah.
Who's and that's on your father's side?
Yes.
Okay.
My yeah, we talked about my grandparents on my mom's side in the last episode.
Okay. But Popo and Grandpa are from dad's side, your dad's side.
Grandma.
Grandma. Oh,
Popo
that's right.
is my grandpa.
Yeah, that's right. So confusing.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. So just to make it more confusing for y'all, if you didn't catch the previous episode that we talked about our grandparents, my grandfather's name or was referred to as Gungung, and my grandmother was referred to as Popo. So opposite of Jamie's family, where Popo was her grandfather. Popo on my side was grandmother. So we're gonna get confusing, I'm sure, throughout this oral history. But as far as your grandmother and grandfather, or grandmother and Popo, how many kids did they have?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, okay. Just like my grandparents, they had 5 children as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. But the youngest one passed away when she was little.
Do you know much about their life, like where they lived and what kind of
They
family they
lived on
had?
the plantation. My grandpa worked for the sugar mill and drove a Turner 2. And I think
What is a Turnitude?
the truck that carries the sugar cane.
Oh, okay.
So I think my grandma stopped working after they got married.
Oh, so she's like a stay-at-home mom, raising all those 5 kids.
Yeah. I don't know if you could work. Were you allowed to work then?
As a woman or as a
Yeah, as
mother?
a woman. I guess you could
I'm
have.
I'm assuming you could work, but
Maybe
maybe,
there wasn't stuff to do out in Wailua for girls. I don't
or
know.
maybe your family knew like, hey, there's all these kids, you better stay home.
I don't think she worked. Maybe she did. I might be totally wrong.
Because I'm pretty sure my grandma and grandpa both worked.
But they had their own business.
Right.
So your grandma was working in the family business.
Yes. She
So
worked in.
I don't know if my grandma could have worked at the plantation.
Right. Well, there was the pineapple plantation back then that had a lot of jobs, and we interviewed
but they're a lot
Myrtle.
younger. That's like my mom's generation of people that
Oh
were working at the
man,
pineapple.
that's such a blurry time. Anything prior to 1975 is all mixed together to me. Like you guys all were born back then, right?
You think all plantations
Yeah.
are the same?
Yeah. um any other fond memories or thoughts of your grandma?
Like what? She always had spaghettios and chips ahoy for me.
So your poor diet is not only the responsibility of your mom, but also your grandmother fostered this unhealthy diet.
I think she just didn't want to fight with me because it wasn't because they would leave me there for like when there was no school. I
Hmm.
think I would just sleep at their house, and I was the only kid. And if there was a lot of spaghettios and chips ahoy, then they didn't have to do anything. But if she was like cooking, then I probably wouldn't eat it.
What would you do when you stayed over there? I imagine you just read books.
Yeah. I think I went with like a boatload of books and I would read them all and then I would read her books. And I watched
Wheel of Fortune?
Price is Right.
Oh, this is earlier in the day.
But she watched a lot of soap operas and I
Hmm.
wasn't interested in that.
Yeah.
So I went in the other bedroom.
Is that pretty much what you remember her doing at home? Is just watching TV, or did she do other things at home?
She was always in the kitchen. I don't know what she was doing. I know she watched her stories and she went in the kitchen. And then Popo was always outside. So they were just like uh in their own areas all
Hmm.
day. I really don't know what she was doing.
It's so interesting how long people back then stayed in the kitchen. Like,
Yeah.
I'm assuming they were prepping or something for meals and whatnot. And then nowadays, like, I just started cooking again. And if I spend like an hour in the kitchen, I'm like, oh my gosh, spent the whole day in here. But they literally would spend the whole day in there a lot of the times.
Yeah.
So curious what they were doing in there. I guess they didn't have Instapots back then.
I think she read Reader's Digest. There was a lot of Reader's Digest in the house.
I have a bone to pick with Reader's Digest
Oh
because my mom
no.
set so like such a lifelong expectation that one day we would win the $1 million Reader's Digest sweepstake. And so I used to pray about that all the time and thinking that one of these days, because she was always like, we'll get that one day, you know. And I'm sure that was she was just saying that tongue in cheek, but as a child, I was like, I need I need us to win this $1 million, and we have yet to get that $1 million check. By the way, Reader's Digest. Okay, you found.
I found the book.
Okay,
It's called
3 hours later.
The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck.
See, I've never heard of this book.
Really?
No,
Man, okay.
read the description of it.
Uh,
What? Okay, let's find out what
uh,
the premise of
well,
this book
Good
is.
Earth is a historical fiction novel published in 1931 that dramatizes family life in a Chinese village in the early 20th century.
Okay, I don't know why this was required reading for you, but that's better than.
If you had to read The Good Earth in school, let us know.
I know that I think we all have shared school required reading was like Catcher in the Rye.
I didn't have to read
Oh,
that.
you didn't? Oh. Um of Mice and Men.
Nope.
Wow, okay. So we really had different required readings. The Great Gatsby.
Yes.
Okay.
Didn't read it though.
I read it and was so frustrated by it because it was such a weird book, man. And I felt so sad or depressed every time I read it. And then I watched the movie, and I was hoping, oh, maybe it'll make sense, and it still didn't, and I still felt very depressed watching it.
I didn't read any school books.
Interesting, because you love reading
I
so
know,
much.
but I didn't like the books that they made us read.
I don't think I liked any of the books they made us read. But then
See?
again, I never liked any books, period. I don't think I liked reading.
I like sci-fi. They didn't assign us sci-fi.
I wonder why that is, that they feel like these books collectively, you know, are the ones that we should be reading. It doesn't seem like many of us, when we're that age, appreciate or enjoy it. So
Maybe it's different now, though. Maybe because the kids read different books than what we had to read.
I don't know. The only one we have experience with is Trent talking about
Great Gatsby.
Great Gatsby. It's like, dang, they make you read that junk.
That's true.
And then something called Animal Crossing, which we thought was about the video game, but it's actually some kind of weird, morbid story, I guess. I guess he was saying it's really messed up. So
Hmm.
I don't know. Anywho's, so I guess I should share a little bit about my grandfather, right?
Yeah.
So my grandfather's story is really interesting. I think he came from a family of like 8 or 9 siblings, and I think, I don't know if he was the oldest boy, but he wasn't the oldest child. He has a sister who's older, but and this is what I would love to know why, but it was told to me that he was kind of selected as the chosen one of his siblings to, for his parents to invest in, to get him, you know, educated, with the idea that he would become something successful to then support and take care of the family. And so I think uh, if any of my family members are hearing this and are like, that is wrong, I apologize. But this
Oh
is what I remember
no.
being told, was that his parents were able to send him to Punahou. And he was, I think, either one of, if not like the first Asian to graduate from Punahou. Like, is very uncommon for a person of Asian descent to attend Punahou school. And when I asked how they were able to afford it, because they weren't rich by any means, I was told that they were very successful in gambling. So I think,
The parents? His
yeah,
parents?
like I think his dad, I think
Wow.
gambling kind of was something that, had a common theme in some of my family history. I my From what I understand, though, my grandfather wasn't a gambler, but his brother was, and I think the generation of gamblers kind of stopped at his brother, but uh, possibly some controversial means of how my grandfather got his education paid for. But he got through high school and got his high school degree from Punahou, but that was the end of the line as far as the money goes. They couldn't afford to send him to college and everything, so um, they were just hoping on, having the connections he made through being a Punahou alumni, and his education he got and his work ethic, that he could make something of himself. So I know there's a whole lot of other stuff. Like, he worked in, I think, life insurance, or some kind of financial stuff up into his 30s. But eventually he started becoming an entrepreneur, started several businesses and stores. He had a convenience store and a clothing store, a sporting goods store, and then he started going into restaurant business and stuff like that. And he opened Charlie's Tavern in Mo'iliili and Mo'iliili Chop Suey, and then House of Hong, which is what we're most known for. But I think through all of those experiences, like he built up this like crazy work ethic where he was just always working. And he and my grandma had 5 children of their own, and from what I understand, like, they pretty much, you know had to raise themselves, because he and my grandmother were always working in the businesses and stuff. But what he ended up becoming kind of like this local celebrity in the sense that like all these business people and important people like politicians and stuff and entertainers, they all were like his good friends. And I guess it was very common for us to always have like famous people at our restaurants, and he's having food and drinks with them and
Like
entertaining them and
who?
stuff. Like I guess like I see pictures of like the famous boxer Joe Louis. Um
That's
he
like a mainland person.
Yeah, and he was really good friends with this Hall of Fame football coach from Nebraska, this like national champion uh, football coach who then became the athletic director at Nebraska and stuff, and like Senator Akaka and I think Senator Inouye were always there, and Danny Kalekini. And I think a lot of the Waikiki entertainers like Frank DeLima and um, probably Don Ho. I don't know for sure Don Ho, but like I know that every time I hear of or meet people who were in the Waikiki entertainment scene,
Mm,
they all talk about, oh yeah, we used to go and hang out at House of Hong afterwards and stuff like that. So um, and at the time I was so young, I didn't know who any of these people were. So I just
yeah.
know that you know we would always hear like, oh, this person's very important. I'm like, okay, when's Gungun gonna take me home or something? But every time I would, so I grew up as an only child to a single parent, my mom, and she was always busy working at the family business. And so he would always kind of take me. Sometimes I would go to work with him or go do errands with him and stuff. So he always called me his little buddy. And
That's so cute.
and every time he would, we'd go walk to the car. He drove this like gray Mercedes. It's like a fancy
Wow.
car,
Holy
and
smokes.
he would always sing the same song when we'd get to the car. And he'd go, "Open the door, Richard. Open the door, Richard. Richard, why don't you open the door?" And I would always say, "My name's not Richard." And it's like every single time we'd go to the car, that whole scenario would happen.
Does he sing it as he's opening the door, or is he telling you to open the door? Is he
See,
waiting for you to open it?
see, I can't remember, but
Oh,
I feel like he's telling me to open the door.
like
So,
he's standing there singing, and you're
and
supposed to open the
yeah,
door.
I I want to say he would give me the responsibility of unlocking and opening the door,
Oh,
and then
it's so cute in my head.
yeah. And if you see him, like he's like kind of this like, not that he's gruff, but he's like a prominent Chinese businessman. He's always dressed
Proper looking.
dressed in fine suits. His hair was always slicked with like lots of probably flammable products, and he always had like gator skin shoes. Like and he had
We have
Rolex
such different
watches.
backgrounds. My papa was always in a polo shirt with pukas in it and stains.
See, my grandfather or my gungung used to have like this tie rack, like a
Oh
bunch
my god.
bunch of ties. And one time I was looking through them. Here's how crazy it was. This tie rack was the one in his office. So that's just the one at work. He
What
had
the
a
heck?
whole full closet
This is
back
where
at
you
home.
come from.
Yeah, yeah.
You have a tie rack?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And so he had sets of clothes, fancy clothes at work and at home. And so in this particular tie rack that I was looking through, he had this tie. And I grew up in the church, devout Christian. My mom, like really bore into me, the love of Christ and all things Christ, right? And I found this tie, and on the label of it said Christian Dior, Dior. And so
My god.
I read it as a child and went, "Oh my gosh, he wants the Christians to die. Why would Gung Gung want Christians to die. And I was in tears. And I
Oh
was
my
like,
god.
I
How old
was,
were you?
well, he passed away when I was 7. So it's
Oh,
any,
so you were little.
yeah.
This
And I
was
had to be
before
able to
they were
read.
paying Punaho to educate you.
Yeah. I didn't go to Punahou till intermediate school. So
Great.
I was either, I must have been 6 or 7
Okay,
because
okay.
at 5, I wouldn't have been able to
So
read.
it's just DI was like that's die.
Yeah. And the R, dire, you know? And I was torn because he was my hero and he's everything to me.
Oh my
Yet
god.
I had this deep, dark secret that he had this evil plot to kill
So you were
Christians.
just crying in the closet and you never told anybody? Like
Well,
nobody
see,
found
the
you?
his office um, was adjacent to the office where my mom worked. And so she was on the other side of the door. And I was wondering, do I tell my mom this stuff? Or do I hold this secret and protect his,
Oh my
identity,
goodness.
but then he might kill all these Christians and stuff, or want Christians to die, which
Oh
my
my
mom is a Christian.
goodness.
I'm a Christian. Does he hate us? So I decided that I needed to tell my mom because maybe she could change his mind. So I, in tears, like brought her over and like, Mom, I need to show you something. And she's like, what? And I pointed like, Gung wants Christians to die. And she busts out laughing. And she says, that is not what it says. That is pronounced Christian Dior. And that is the name of this designer. That's just the name of the brand of this
Oh my
clothing. Like,
goodness.
oh, I had such a
Oh
huge
my
sigh of
goodness.
relief.
That was when she decided that it's worth it to send you to private school because your education is in dire straits.
Yeah. But yeah,
Holy smokes.
I don't know why that story came about, but
That's an amazing story.
yeah. So
You just need to know, I don't think my popo owned a tie. He, for my first wedding that was like super like whatever, he wore a coat and like a loud looking aloha shirt.
And I will say though, like I do have family members who are like your popo. So it's not that my whole like my family kind of has like this nice little line that they
Yeah,
fall upon one side of either my gungung side that's very fancy and
that's
hoity-toity,
you.
and then the other side
You're
that's
so
that's
hoity-toity.
like your popo, and they all get along great. Like it's like, and it's not like you know.
This is why Nolan has the big closet and I have the tiny closet.
I have some of his ties in my closet, and
Do you?
I have his a jacket that he got from Nebraska University when they won some kind of
Oh
special,
wow.
like I don't know, national championship. They made a custom rain jacket for him where it says that, like,
Holy
he was like part of the team,
smokes.
and they made him a jersey. They were in like the Fiesta Bowl, which was at the time I think the national championship, and so they made him a Fiesta Bowl um Nebraska
Wow.
jersey with his last name on it.
So he's like good friends with that
Hmm.
coach.
Here's a funny story about that: is that I spent most of my days in his office because his office had a TV, and so I would watch TV there all day, every day. And one Saturday, I was sitting in the office watching TV, and it's a national football game, the Nebraska Cornhuskers versus the Oklahoma Sooners.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. And then at halftime, on the TV screen appears my Gungung, and he's there as a special guest. And they did this whole ceremony where
Holy
he brought
cow.
the head director and school AD and everything of Nebraska a pineapple, and like, you
Like
know,
they showed that on
yeah.
camera. It
And
wasn't just that it was like the wide shot and you could
no,
pick
no,
him out. He was
they
like,
they had this whole setup where they're sitting on stools, and he was microphoned,
"What?"
and they said like, here to present a very special presentation is Raymond Hong, and he's like, oh, wanted to say congratulations on a good season, and
Holy
from all of
smokes.
Hawaii, aloha, da, da, da. And my grandfather was always big on giving gifts, and not just like buying gifts, like he made like custom gifts and stuff. Like he would go
Wow.
to China or Hong Kong and buy like these custom like statues or plates and stuff, and it always had to do with, you know, what the year was, like year of the ox. He made these fancy things, and he just have like boxes of this stuff everywhere, like placed strategically, either in his car or at home or in the office or right by the cashier's table, so that he's always like ready to like, hey, so and so, my good friend, hey, he pulls out this, and it's already wrapped with a bow and everything, and like he was the most generous. Like he loved giving
Wow.
gifts and stuff. So, and it's funny, we were recently doing like I was looking up items, like trying to find pictures of House of Hong, and I found and discovered that there's all of these items on sale on eBay these days, like vintage things, and like a lot of them, some of them are these things like the, you know, plate commemorating 1984, year
It's
of
the
the
stuff
dragon.
that he had made?
Yeah, and then that
I
we're
only saw the
finding we're
brochures.
finding those stuff in like all of these like antique shops in Hawaii and stuff. Like it's funny. My uncles and aunties have like a bunch of this stuff like in storage. They can't get rid of it. And like their friends will find at an antique shop one of these things, and they buy it and they give it to them, like, look, I thought you'd appreciate this. Like, isn't this so cool? Like a pair of chopsticks. Somebody did that for me. They bought me a pair of chopsticks. They're like, oh,
We
we
have
still
a
have
whole
we have
handful.
cases of this stuff, but thanks. But it's kind of interesting that, you know, something that he
Yeah.
made so many years ago is now considered like antiques and valuable stuff. And I gotta imagine there's tons of people with these
Yeah,
things
that's super
in their
cool.
living rooms and stuff like that. But he always, like, the other thing he always did was he loved to show his love through giving of food. He loved to feed you. And so he would literally walk around. Uh, the story goes that he loved not only the fancy foods like, you know, crab and abalone and stuff like that, and fine spirits and wines, but he also loved stuff like canned pork and beans. Like you'd get a can of pork and beans, bust that open, pour it in a bowl, add like Worcestershire sauce and ketchup and mix it up, brown sugar. And then I was told that he would try to get like his waitresses and staff at the restaurant to eat it and try it.
The pork and beans?
Yeah. And they would be like, no, I don't want that. That's gross. And like they said, he would literally chase around them, like, no, no, seriously, try this. And like, and they'd be like running away from him, going, no, no, I don't want those. I don't want that. But he's like, you know, he just like truly believed that if you just tasted this,
It sounds
you'd see.
awful.
But to this day, pork and beans are like my favorite things. But it's so funny because like he would always hold these huge family dinner parties that close out the restaurant and invite, you know, I I imagine there's probably up to 100 of our family members there, and we'd have like 12-course meals there, and it's all like the expensive stuff, like things that I thought were normal back then because I'm just a kid. I don't know what the value or cost of stuff is, but it was almost like a given that we'd have something like shark fin soup, which is illegal now, but back then it wasn't, where they would actually boil the fin of a shark and it makes these like glass noodle type of things. And it's such a delicacy that, you know, even if you buy it now, if you find a place that sells it, they will use artificial shark fin, so it's not even real. But you probably still have to pay like $25 just for a cup of it. And if you back then had like, you know, authentic um, shark fin, you know, you're probably paying 30-40 dollars a cup, something like that.
Holy
Like, and it's just
smokes.
those little cups, not like a Simon bowl cup, like just
Holy
like little
smokes.
rice bowl cup size. Um, but yeah, that'd just be like every family dinner we'd have something like that, like abalone, which is very expensive and stuff. But he just loved to, I guess, reach people's hearts through their stomach. And he's all like, here, eat this. And the way he'd eat it, you know how like Wes eats and he smacks his food and
Hear that crunch.
yeah. Um I don't know, there's something about the way my grandfather would eat that it was very loud, but it was so enticing and it just made you be like, oh man, that looks so good. And it, as I think back, one of the grossest things that I've ever seen him eat, I remember wanting to eat it because it sounded, and he just looked like, it looked like such a delicacy. Like he would get whole Dungeness crabs, and he'd crack open the body, and in there would be this yellow
Oh.
liquid, and I guess that's where all the crab eggs are,
Oh.
if it's a female crab. And then the bottom shell of the crab would serve like a bowl, and he would just like put it up to his mouth and go and slurp up this yellow
Oh.
egg goo.
Stop. It's too
It
much
sounds so nasty.
description.
Yeah, it
Too
sounds nasty.
much.
But man, we would all be like, dang, I want to try that. It must be so good. And he would always, after he's done, he'd like do this weird things with his teeth, like natural teeth picking, but he's like that, like like the food is so good. Like even the one stuck between his teeth, you gotta get that out of there. Gotta get the last bites out of there. And then when I think of it, it's just like that scene looks so barbaric and gross. It's like just with his hands.
Please don't describe it again. I almost hurled.
Yeah. And I think, oh man, I would, if I looked at that now, I'd be like, oh, it looked like mustard, like drinking a bowl of mustard. Anyways, um, but yeah, those are the things that kind of I remember a lot is him singing to me, and he had a like scratchy, gruff voice, so it wasn't like he's like this. Open the door, Richard. He's like he had kind of like, you know, not broken English, but like local Chinese accent, like it's kind of like pigeon accent. So it's funny that he would sing that song, and he loved feeding people, loved food, very generous. And the other thing that I remembered is that he would always walk through Chinatown, and I don't even know why we were there, but it was kind of like as if this was our version of, walking through Hollywood and people seeing like Tom Cruise walking through the streets. Like I would just be walking next to him, and all these people would come running out from the stores and be like, "Hey, Raymond! Hey, Mr. Hong!" and like run up and shake his hand and run back in the store and grab fish and come out and go here, here, and they all just gift him like all this free stuff, and they would tell me like, "This your grandpa? This your grandfather?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And like, "Oh, you're such a lucky little boy. Like, he's a good man." Like they just talk about him like he's like this huge celebrity. And I used to be like, yeah, I agree. Like, Gung Gung's awesome, And so that really sets the kind of, I don't know, this image of that I've carried on for the rest of my life with him. Like, he's larger than life. And it wasn't like, oh, he's so amazing because he's like so successful. He is amazing to me because of how he treated people, and I saw how much he loved people, and then in turn seeing how that translates to how they viewed him, and like for many years after he passed, his name was kind of like a golden ticket for me and my family. Anytime we were at a business or some place and we met somebody, there's many times that it'd be like they'd say, "Oh, what's your name?" Like, "Oh, my name is Nolan Hong." Are you related to Raymond Hong? Like, yes, that's my grandfather. Oh my God, Raymond Hong is your grandfather? It's like, it's just so crazy how he affected so many people and touched so many people, and his name carried on for so long. So that's why, even to this day, when like I'm going through things like whether it's running a business or being married or raising kids, like I always wonder what it would have been like if I could have got his opinion or him to share his experiences. And I would have loved to have heard. For the longest time I always thought he had it made, like he had all the answers because he was so successful, and that he I assumed he would have told me, "Oh yeah, I was never afraid and I just went in there and I just did it." But now, knowing what I know, as far as the progression of life and learning and stuff, I bet he would have told me like I was scared and I didn't know what was gonna happen. Like, and to hear all of that would have been so empowering for me, because I used to hold so much like uh, guilt or what's the word, like embarrassment, that I wanted to set out to be just like him.
Mhm.
And every year that would pass that I was not as successful as him and didn't accomplish what he did, I felt more and more embarrassed. Like I've fallen so short and I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. And I knew at 30 something he already was starting his businesses and stuff. And I'm like, I'm 35 and I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. And I always felt like there was I didn't live up to his expectations or mine. But if he was around, I bet you he
Yeah.
would have been like, this is fine. Well, maybe he wouldn't. Maybe he would have been very critical. Like, get off your butt and just do it. Quit questioning it. I don't know what he would have said. But I recently, in the past several years, I found this old home video, and you can't really hear what he says, but you just see is at like a big party at the restaurant, and you just see his mannerisms and him walking around and talking, and it was just it kind of just like lit this huge, I don't know, like butterfly
Yeah.
in my stomach, and it's just like, oh look, there he is. Oh man, it's like better than I remember it. It's just I was so emotional, and I was just like, man, I'd give anything to just like hear him talking to, and seeing what his personality was like and stuff. So that's what really I think motivates me to for us doing these legacy videos,
Yeah.
is I want to be able to help others be able to get what I wish I could have gotten, and capturing the stories and the mannerisms and the voice of that person in their life, so that they can share it with future generations. Like
Yeah.
I have cousins who are much younger than me, who were born probably like 15 years after he'd passed. Like
Really?
yeah, it's like significantly
Wow.
later after he's gone. But our family talks like so much about my grandfather, and with so much reverence and appreciation and love, that even my young cousins, when we get together now, they're like in their 20s now, but they'll still be like, do you have any stories about Gung Gung? Can you tell me more about him? Like they just think of him as this, larger than life character, and he is to them because they don't even know
Yeah.
what he was like, or never heard his voice, never saw him. So it'd be so cool for them to be able to see that. So um that's kind of why I think this latest venture that we're going on, or tangent of our work, I think this is what I truly feel like this is what we're supposed to do for our
Yeah.
lives. Like we've done all these other things. Like this will be really great. I don't know if we'll do this forever, but
Yeah.
it makes sense for right now. This is the first time I've ever said, I think this is all I want to do for the rest of my life. Yeah. How's it for you? What is your why, and how did you feel about um, the idea of doing legacy videos, and why it's something that you wanted to do?
That's a hard question. Make it easier. I've just been listening for so
I know, I'm
long.
sorry. I kind of hogged this whole thing.
Well, I'm difficult to get me to talk. I know that. Especially with a camera in my face.
Well, I guess we'll make it easier. What's your why as to why you wanted to provide this service of legacy videos and capturing these stories for families?
I think it is like I love it. I love it so much and it's so interesting and it's different for me cuz I wasn't as close to my grandparents as you were, but
Mm-hmm.
I do have like the memories that I do have of them are really special to me. even though I wasn't that close to them. Because I
Mm.
think it was because I'm so quiet and very like uh introverted, especially as a kid. So
Mhm.
they didn't really talk to me much, and I didn't want to talk to anybody anyway. But um, after they, oh, Nato's crying.
She broke out of the studio. If you,
I
I don't know
let her.
when this
No,
happened. The door opened.
I opened the
Oh,
door because she
oh,
was crying and looking at the door.
oh.
And then I let her out. I thought she would stop crying, but now
This
she's just crying from outside.
this just shows you how like much I'm unaware that when I'm talking, I didn't even know she got up and
I one time I
opened
went under the table to
I
get
remember
my
that.
slippers, and then I got up to let her out.
But by opening that door, it's made the studio very warm.
I
All the cold
know.
air is
Should I
exiting.
shut it?
No, we're
Oh,
we're we're almost done, folks. But you're saying that you weren't as close to your
yeah.
grandparents.
I wasn't that close to them, but after they passed, it was like it was it was it hurt a lot. Like it was really
Mm.
sad, and I wish that I knew them better. So if we had a good legacy video with them, I would it would be really cool. I think just to have that option when you're ready for it is is something that I wish I had.
Hmm.
And I think like the ones that we did, like when we were doing all those interviews before with the seniors, like
So we had been commissioned by another company to
yeah,
capture stories from Kupuna, but for a very short, like 3 minute or
under
2 minute,
3 minutes.
yeah, like 2 minute, clips.
Yeah.
So somehow condensing someone's life story into under three
But
minutes.
that wasn't even it. But anyway, yeah, sort of. But it was a long interview
Hmm.
that we made into under 3 minutes.
Hmm.
But those interviews were like, it's super cool hearing all of that stuff.
Yeah, because sometimes they would, be talking about their life experiences and how that led to, I guess, what the end result is, like some kind of like life lesson, or that was what the hope was of these videos.
Yeah.
But in getting to talk to them, we heard so many fascinating stories.
Yeah. And it's like the life lesson isn't even the thing.
Yeah.
It's the experience that's the thing. Like hearing what they went through and seeing how looking back at what they went through, how they talk about it was really really cool.
One that sticks out to me is we actually knew one of the gentleman that we interviewed, and all we knew him as was this sweet old kind of goofy guy. Like he always like, "Hello, Jamie. Hello, Nolan," and kind of like aloof sometimes. And we just like or I don't know if
I
that's the
don't
right word.
think you're using the right
Okay,
word.
but just like what a funny guy. Like
Just like happy?
like la 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 kind of
Yeah.
guy. Yeah. And then when we interviewed him, like he told us, when he was in his 20s and stuff, like how he was a fighter pilot, and told us these crazy stories of how he got into
Yeah.
like dog fights, and he had bullet holes riddled on the side of the things, and
Oh my god.
saved the lives of these people. I'm just like, what?
What in the world?
You, the guy that just has like the silliest, goofiest conversations with, like you're a American hero, man. Like this is so
Yeah.
crazy. And so that's what I think we forget is like, especially with our family members too, like sometimes we only know them as like, oh, that's crazy old Uncle Al, but if you dig deep, like there's a lot of rich history and a lot of amazing things and they come from eras and experiences and times that are so foreign to a lot of us.
But I think even like that's the kind of story that's like huge
Hmm.
and like an exceptional story. But even for people that don't have like a on paper exceptional life,
Yeah.
like they've gone through things that is it's interesting and I think helpful to hear.
Yeah, like even like so for example, we just recently interviewed a gentleman who talked about like how he and his siblings used to pass the time in the neighborhood as kids, and they would play this thing called stickball. And I was like, what the heck is stickball? And there's literally they use a stick as a ball, and they played like baseball, but instead
And
of
it
hitting a baseball,
wasn't a ball, it
it's
was
just a
leaves in
yes,
some kind of bag type, something that
yeah,
functioned as a bag.
yeah. And it's just like these wonderful stories, and it's like,
And gum.
oh yes, that's right. He said that they would use tar to pave the roads,
From the
and
road.
his children would grab the tar from the road and chew it as chewing gum. Isn't that
Oh
gross
my god.
and crazy?
But he is now 96, so apparently
Yeah,
maybe we all should
that's what
chew.
I told him. I was like, maybe you guys found the secret to long life is in that tar that you guys were chewing. I was like, did it have any flavor? He goes, oh no. And all I just imagine these like all these kids running around the streets with black teeth,
Yeah, black.
because I can't imagine that tar, um, doesn't stain your teeth. But see, these are the kind of stories that you would never get, like,
Yeah.
and it's like you gotta keep these stories. And so we're really, fortunate that we get to sometimes, there are families that hire us to produce these, and we get. I always feel so privileged that I get to hear all these stories,
Yeah.
and get to learn it all, and they pay me for it. But as we're trying to explain, like you don't need to wait till someone professional records these stories. Like
Yeah.
get them now, because
Yeah.
not to be morbid, but tomorrow's not promised, right? And so get it, like, and so many times
Yeah.
in introducing this, the ideas of legacy videos, like at least 2 to 3 people each time I mention it will say, oh man, I
Yeah.
wish I did that when my grandfather was alive, or
Yeah.
when my father was alive, or even I wish that you'd done this like a couple years ago, because my father's not as sharp as he was,
Yeah.
like, and it's this idea of we are running out of time, like let's take advantage of it now. And I think that's why I feel so motivated to get this out. Like it's not that, we gotta get as many people to have us make legacy videos. It's my motivation is we gotta get all of these stories captured now before we can't
Yeah.
get that opportunity. So that's why this you know workshop that we're doing is just like not anything like, oh, here we're going to teach you how it's done and teach you that you cannot do it yourself, so you got to hire us. It's like, nah, for real, you can do this yourself. Like we'll show you how, and it'll be good enough
Yeah.
to keep for generations to come. So I hope that you guys join us, or that you can even share and spread the word with others about it too, because one, Jamie's really paranoid that no one's going to show up to this. But
Ah.
two, I worry that there's people that will similarly, say, I wish I had known about this
Yeah.
earlier. I would have loved to have done this, but now it's too late. So I just really want as many people as possible to get this.
Yeah. And I think like some people, because we haven't talked about this, but I would guess that we're going to make the recording available. And I think like for me, I'm always hesitant about getting on Zoom calls because I don't want to be around people, even virtually. But like, so I don't want to like be on there and have my name be on the screen because I'm like, I don't know, what if I'm the only one there and that's uncomfortable. But I think for this, like the Q&A part of it is going to be really helpful because we don't know what people don't know,
Yeah.
because we do this. This is what
This
we
is
do.
second nature for us. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's probably a lot of stuff that we wouldn't think to add to our lesson plan or
Yeah.
whatever. So I think the Q&A is going to be really necessary, so if people can come on and then and let us know where the pukas are, like what we
Hmm.
didn't, what we missed.
Or I might even be using verbiage that doesn't make sense to you.
Yeah.
The way I explain it, needs to be clarified.
Like in a recipe when something says to whisk it, and I
Yeah.
don't know what a whisk is.
Or if you look at a tie and it says Christian Dior, and you think your whole world is turned upside down, you just need someone to tell you, no, it's pronounced Dior. And we're going to be giving away a prize
Oh
too. So
yeah.
you want to be
Did it
there for
come in
that.
yet?
No.
Oh.
I hope it comes in by, well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't
Whenever it comes
matter.
in, we'll
Yeah.
give it away and announce the winners on that day. But again, so it's Tuesday, November 15th at 7:30 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. It's on Zoom, and you get the Zoom link by going to the Eventbrite, and it's free. You just have to RSVP, and then you'll get the Zoom link that way. But if you want more information on it, just go to our website, legacyvideos.com/workshop.
That goes to the Eventbrite.
Oh,
which has all the information on it.
Right. So hope to see you all there. And again, if you could help us out by sharing it with people you know, that'd be awesome. And if you want to have more episodes with Jamie on camera, send us an email. You can email me at nolanhong.com.
No, thank you.
And of course, if you haven't joined our free Hanging Out Facebook group, do so. Just go to Facebook and search up Hanging Out in Hawaii, and it's a fun group of people that not only are fans of the podcast, but just fans of Hawaii in general. And we talk.
I
about
really like the small business posts.
So yeah, every Saturday we dedicate a post to promoting or sharing about small businesses in Hawaii that we love and appreciate and should know about. And thanks to, I think, Bixby, brought up this cafe in Nu'uanu that I had never heard of, and it looks amazing. So I'm gonna be checking that place out for sure next time I'm.
Do you remember what it's called?
No.
I want to go to the shoe store. It might have been him that somebody was talking about.
Yeah, Ueda Shoe Store.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's all these cool, local businesses.
I want to hear about all the hole in the walls.
Yeah.
That's it.
So the cool part about this group is that everybody's like, it's not about promotion or sales. It's just about like, hey, let's give awareness and appreciation to the things that we love here in Hawaii, whether it's businesses or places or activities or people. So it's a really cool group. So go check that out, and again, join us for our free DIY workshop on how to make your own legacy videos. November 15th, Tuesday, 7:30 Hawaii Standard Time. That's it. Shall we cut Jamie off of her misery? So sad. Everyone loves you so much, and yet you don't.
It's going so long. This is so long.
Nobody can make me feel more insecure about being on here. This is why I don't have her on much. It's really uncomfortable for me, folks. The judgments, the disdain, it's rough. So next week, I hope to have somebody else with me, another wonderful guest that won't cast judgment upon me, make me feel bad. So, for Jamie, for Emmett, and Nato, we'll see you next time on another episode of Hanging Out with Nolan Hong. Bye.